You people out there in TV, I guess most of you know, but what we're doing here, the second parts of the program, is the people here in the studio audience, here in Stockholm, we moved. They request certain pages that they would like to hear from the Kyroots, re-commented thereupon, etc. And that's what I'm going to attempt to do. But first I'd like to point out, from last time, just to draw your attention, since no one requested them last time, there were two I just would like to remind you of, tied to one tonight, as a matter of fact. One of them said that it's everyone's own voice on the phone, and that one was that a man with uncertain property lines can safely leave his house unattended. And tonight, if you have nothing to hide, nothing to intellectually defend, all skirmishes are victorious. And now, for tonight. How do you explain the fact that I've already covered the one was already requested? And Kyroots said, everyone right outside your window is everybody else. I think that's clear enough. Especially if you'd like to take window as being your ability to receive, your perception of life. Where is everybody? They're right outside the window. Kind of gives you the willies, doesn't it? Well, I guess you could start on that thing about uncertain property lines or the defense of one's home. And then I guess you could really get weird and wonder, is that actually talking about home and windows, or is it something else? Where is the storm windows of life? Some of them behind the eyes. That's where most of them are with people. Some behind the nose, the touch. Some of the little fishes think, boy, is this water thick. Because some of their little windows, if you want to look at it that way, are 4,000 or 5,000 miles thick. Humans do not feel that far removed from the water, do they? No, because now that I went that far, there's probably people in the audience that are not even of any unusual mental inclination that would say, you're right, everybody is right outside the window. Far too close. Montana is shrinking, which is one way you can tell that civilization is growing, is that everyone outside the window gets closer and closer. And there are certain people who have less and less of a proclivity to laugh at hermit jokes. Okay, well, there are two here. I'll grant you why should I grant you? I know that they are kind of sticky to hear, but I think they're sticky if you just read them. So, I'll do my best Elmer's imitation. And Kyroots said, if a man's going to have internal conversations regarding his relationship with others, then he had better, by God, have the last word if he plans on being a revolutionist. It is the little trick is saying, if a man's going to. I'm assuming all of you know a little something about the way life works. It's not a question of if, that you talk about your relationships. It is the keeping of accounts, but it's just all manner of personal relationships with other people. You continually having conversations, and it doesn't have to be down to the point of your sexual live-in partners. It can be all that to the personal relationship, to the service manager down at the Pontiac dealer where you got your car fixed. And the way that they mistreated you, yes, once again. And so here you are driving home, considering calling an attorney and then trying to decide which is the worst to deal with, an attorney or a damn dishonest mechanic. And you've got this conversation going regarding some personal relationship. What Kyroots is pointing out, that if you're going to have this, if this is going to happen, and you plan to do anything out of the ordinary with your poor little hormonal, enzymal, transmittable driven life, then you had better, by God, have the last word in such conversations. Which is bad enough. I could stop there, but the next page was also a kind of connection to it. That Kyroots says, all right, I'll put it to you like this, referring back to what we just did. Anyone who would carry on internal arguments regarding someone else's treatment of them, sexually, socially, business-wise, and then let the voice speaking for the other party in the conversation have the final decisive word, that kind of person, that kind of thinking, of course what we're talking about, is far too flimsy to be of any particular consequence. I don't guess I have to point out to you that this is far removed from any concept of reasonable psychology. This is not the way ordinary people think, but I'll put it to you real directly, since we no sense beating around the bush, because there's actually no bush there to beat around. You just have to just kind of jump out there in the darkness and say, get away, you mean old bush, if you're here, which is not there, so there's nowhere to start. It's this, it's not if, as you continually, it is the driving kind of energy that it is going to, as long as you're breathing, even when you're asleep. You dream when you're asleep. You dream when you're awake. You talk to yourself. No, I don't. Yeah, I know. Well, you people turn on another channel, because it's obvious you're dealing with idiots here. You talk to yourself. And one of the great areas of conversation, in the same way as it is overtly between people, is with yourself, about the kind of conversations of how you've been mistreated, or are you going to be mistreated, having to do with relationships with other people. They normally do not necessarily come to any satisfying conclusion. You can get old enough, you forget about the conversation. Let's say it was you've been mistreated. Somebody cheated you in a business deal, or someone broke your little heart in a romantic deal. And so you keep doing the conversation, maybe even literally what the person said, like the guy walked out the door and says, here's a quarter. Or the guy at the Pontiac dealer said, hey, what are you going to do? We got your money. And you keep playing this over and over, but notice the kinds that stay with a man, with a person, is a conversation that obviously, once you see it, does not come to anything resembling a satisfactory conclusion. Because if it did, you'd forget about it. The only reason that you can make money off writing country and western heartbreaking songs or being religious is that the conversation at tail end is still, you said something smart, and then he got to the door and turned around and he said something even smarter. It didn't have to be that intellectually clever, but you keep remembering what he said. Or you remember that you went back to the dealer and you showed them. I went to another dealer, and he pointed out, he wrote it right here, that you did not do the work that you swore you did. And so he said, well, I talked to my mechanic, and he said we did. Well, let me ask him. Well, he's already quit last week. Well, wait a minute, you're just telling me that. No, I'm not, sir. We've done our best. This is twice you've been back. This all going on. And you say, no, this is not fair. I paid you good money. It's not fixed. And finally, the guy, you can still remember the way he turned around and looked at you and he said, we got your money. Leave us alone. Sue me. Let's say it was sue me. That's a nice ending. And you go around for weeks, maybe months. And it gets to the point the guy looks at you and he says, like you run the conversation out. You tried to be reasonable. You tried to act like a decent, moral human being. And he played along and danced with you for a few minutes. And finally he looked at you and said, hey, sue me. And walked off. Over and over, sue me. You understand? They have the last word. Of course, if you get any better than an ordinary person, they don't have the last word. He may have said that, but who's saying it now? Well, I'm just remembering it. Oh, because he said it. Okay. Well, don't just say okay. If he hadn't said that, if he hadn't mistreated me that way, I would not be remembering it. Be that as it may. You are carrying on an internal conversation regarding some relationship with other people. If you let them have the last word, see that we're back to the trick. If you let them have the last word, it's you talking to yourself. And I'm not going through that again, am I? That the other person says, well, no, I'm not talking to myself. I'm just recalling what was said. Well, I told you change the channel. It's you talking to yourself. I don't care where you think you got the material, it's you talking to you. But think about it a second. Don't just say because Kyroots says, well, if you do this, you won't be a revolutionist. Forget all of that. Just ask yourself now from some reasonable view. Forget about whether you want to be a revolutionist and make Kyroots happy. Ask yourself this. Once you get a glimpse of it, ask yourself this, that you're walking around doing a conversation with yourself. I know you may be thinking that you're talking to the guy back at the Pontiac dealer. And don't any of you people from up north write and tell me how to pronounce Pontiac. You just don't know. Think about it. You may say, well, I got the material from him. I got it from my girlfriend walking out the door and telling me, I said, are you leaving me for a better man? And she said, let's see if I can think, I just wrote a country song. And she says, if I'm leaving you for another man, you don't have to put in the rest. There are no modifiers. How could I do worse? But now notice, neither of those situations between the Pontiac or you losing your wife or husband, notice, it's you talking to you. You got to be good enough to realize and get over the fact that, well, they made me do it. It's you talking to you, and get this. You're letting the worst side of the conversation that you're doing get the best of you. Do you hear me? It's you talking to you and insulting you. One more time. I know that you'll say, well, somebody else did it. She said it. I'm just thinking about what she said. I can't. It's embroidered. That's not the word I'd use, but it was tonight, and a lot of you liked embroidered. It's embroidered on my consciousness. That salesman looking at me and saying, sue me. He's the one that made me think it. Right. It rained on you 2 years ago, and you're still wet. Think about it. Just think about it. You are now carrying on a conversation inside of you. 2 parts of your brain, and one of them is insulting you. Not only do you let it have the last word once, you continue to do it over and over like, well, I want to make sure that it can still get the best of me. Yeah, it does. But that's what ordinary people think. They think of it as being some kind of negative, memorable Edie Figs. It's just something that's emblazoned upon my brain. Think about it another way. That you'll carry on a conversation in which one side of it is insulting you, is negative, is depressing. Not only will you do it once, not only the one time will be bad enough once you see it, that you talk to yourself. It's like one left side of your brain talking to your right side, the east or the west. And the side that's insulting, one time will be enough. You let it get the last word. Like you're left there going, that if I had a few more minutes, I'd think of some quick, clever comeback. One time be bad enough, that is, that you topped you. But is that enough? No. You continue to do it. If you can carry on, if such conversations happen in you and you do not get the last word, then fill in your own blank about what a work of art I am, which is right here, the guy that looked in the mirror and says, am I a work of art or not? How would I read it? After delivering, it just fit right in. I wasn't thinking about it, it's just an accident. After delivering what he considered to be an exceptionally witty and devastating remark, he popped into the restroom, looked lovingly in the mirror as he slicked back his hair, and said to his reflection, am I a work of art or not? And his brain reflection replied, that depends on whether Michelangelo and Walt Disney are still alive. Put in your own metaphors and symbolisms, because I'm not sure that it's necessary to symbolize Walt Disney or a man who would go. Of course, come to think about it, Walt Disney did that a lot. Well, no, it's hard. Reading and Kyroots said, when you know that the last page of your embroidery manual is missing, you already know it, you'll believe just about anything the hell that you're now sewing on. And Kyroots pointed out that this itself offers a comprehensive explanation regarding several of man's more persuasive institutions. You can figure out what those are, but there's one after that, in case you can't figure it. After hearing all this, a guy right at the bottom of the page, that little guy there, pondered, quote, "Is this the basis for that old proverb that says only a steerage-class chowderhead would concern himself, ask whether on a sinking ship the lifeboats are consecrated or kosher?" When you're going along, I'll go back to the top, and you already know that the last page of the manual, the embroidery manual, is missing, which everybody knows is missing. Don't you know that? Well, sure you do. That's why, amongst other institutions, you hadn't figured out, that's why we have, what's the one I was trying to think of? Religion. Everybody knows that the last page is missing. Oh, I know that some people say, no, it's not missing, because it says so right here in this holy book that the last page is so-and-so. But everybody knows the last page is missing. That is why the second part of the sentence of the Kyroots, that is why, since everyone knows that the last page is missing, that then they'll just pretty damn well accept whatever they're sewing on right now. It's good to be able to help out. This was connected a few pages later, as it's pretty obvious, I guess, but I'll read it. Sometime after this last one I just did, another guy thought, is it just me? Is it just me that's getting behind? I just got it. Because it strikes me that without an intellect, a man would not even suspect that his ship might sink. But also without an intellect, he'd never have a ship to begin with. And he was decent enough to say, is it just me? Am I the only one this far behind? Of course, the truth is, as far as life's concerned, no. Because no one else finds any sense to that. Wait a minute. What the hell does that mean to say that without an intellect, a man wouldn't even suspect that there was no last page? To change allegories in the middle of an allegory. Not just that a ship might sink, but without an intellect, nobody would know that the last page is missing in your book. But then the fact is, without an intellect, you wouldn't have a book to start with. It gets real hard, if you ever see it, to complain after that. Oh, I don't mean it's impossible. But God, it gets difficult to. Because anything the mind can do about, well, things are sinking. Just use that in its broadest sense. Something's missing. All that, just accept it. That my brain told me that, and my brain is in good company. I'm surrounded by other brains that say that, yep. My brain says the ship may sink. Which all you got to do is just momentarily drive past the graveyard. It seems pretty sure that there is a page missing. But to think, without a brain, I would have no idea, no man would have any idea that the ship might sink. And then to think, well, but wait a minute, without a brain to start with, go way, way back, without a brain to start with, you wouldn't even have any kind of notion about a ship to start with. And I guess grammatically, rhetorically, even an ordinary person could follow that for a second if they wanted to and go, all right, what's the point? Which is the beauty of it, because life can just go, I can do those kind of tricks and go, watch this, and you can watch it, and it'll do the trick right in front of your eyes, almost slow motion, which even I thought was a singular occurrence, that reference to a skywriting blimp. It can run in slow motion and life go, da, and then kind of look at you like, see, did you see? And you think, well, yeah, he did slow enough, I saw the trick. And then people look off for a second and they'll think, so? It's like life can do it right in front of your eyes and let you see the rabbits and all up their sleeves or whatever it is going on. And it does it just so slow and right in front of you, and it goes, huh? And you go, well, yeah, but why? Because anything that obvious is right before you, well, what's the point? That without an intellect, you would have no conception that a ship might sink. You'd have no conception that your little swinging machine might ever have any problem. Right? Without an intellect, right? I mean, a dog's going to die, but he doesn't know it. All right? Yeah, I got that. He doesn't have an intellect, right? So without an intellect, you would have no conception that things may be, that you might be in for a hard road somewhere down the line. Yeah. But how about this? If you didn't have an intellect, you wouldn't have any concept that there was a road. Well, yeah. So? Well, you can make up your own. I was thinking another instant Kyroot that the whole idea of camouflage was stolen, just outright from life. And Kyroots said, as waters hold fish together, so memories man. The bottom, except Kyroot pointed out for revolutionist purposes, too often the adhesive is contaminated. For you psychological environmentalists. Well, I wanted to leave it, but it's hard. As waters hold fish together, so memories man. This is collectively, this is individually in brains. There's another one in here I don't guess we'll get to. I don't know whether anybody asked for it, but it's tied to this with not the same words. You could try and dismantle the first part of the sentence as waters hold fish together. Do it yourself right quick. You can go, that makes no sense, or wait a minute, there's a word missing, there's too many words, something's just not quite right. Water doesn't hold fish together. I assure you, there's no mistake. Kyroots said, as waters hold fish together, so memories man. It is collectively true, it is individually true. What holds the intellect together? What holds humans together? And you can take several kinds of views if we had something else to try and some point ephemerally to make. You can say all kinds of things that mutual interests hold people together. The herd instinct, enzymes, culture. You can say all kinds of things. But memories hold men together. Not just memories, but without memories, men would not stay together. If we could have everything as it is and then change it a little bit for the sake of intellectual playing, if men could be intellectual and just like you are and do away with the memories that you have in regards to other people, then there would be no such thing as civilization. It is memories that hold people together in the same way that the fish are held together. Consider the all-inclusive, what waters mean with fish. It is the beginning and the end of all environment. It would be the beginning and the end of all of their intellectual environment if they had one, because they could not think other than damp thoughts based upon where they are. Men cannot ordinarily think outside the connection between themselves, outside of what memories they have. But then, how about internally? And it's not that strange, because even ordinary psychology would probably buy this in a certain way, to say that if your memories are taken away, you intellectually would fall apart. Because it happens to people, amnesia. They can still talk, but they are, for all intents and purposes, they are rendered inoperable. Total amnesia. They have no memory of them. They have no memory of anyone else. They are just about rendered. Still, they, I guess, can talk or say something, or, yes, I'll take some water. But they are, for all intents and purposes, rendered dysfunctional as a human. What Kyroots pointed out at the bottom was that for a revolutionist, for some extraordinary purpose, pulling the metaphors sort of cross-stream, he points out that the adhesive, the waters, to use environmental terms, are somewhat contaminated for any kind of extraordinary use. For ordinary use, it's all right. The kind of memories that hold things together, the kind of memories that will make a man, for instance, back to where we were talking about earlier, that will make a person's brain, for all good reasons, it would say, continue to replay some argument it had with a used car salesman, with a mechanic, with an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend to keep replaying that. And even a person, if you said, why do you keep harping on that thing? That's 6 months ago you had that run-in with a car dealer. Yeah, I know, but it's the principle of the thing, or whatever they want to say. And you can say, well, you're being ridiculous. Either sue them, go up there and whip their ass, or, well, quit doing it. You keep talking about it. And the man might think, well, you're right. I think about it every day. And he might admit, if you say, well, that's not right. It's accomplishing nothing. An ordinary man might go, well, you're right. That is verging on a neuroses. You're right. It's unprofitable. I should forget it. It's not unprofitable. That is the kind of adhesive element that holds the brain together individually, that holds a man's personality attire, even if he is not the lovely Michelle. It is his fashion statement of the memories, even the ones that, if pinpointed and asked about, he may say, yes, that particular one does me no good. I shouldn't keep harping on it. I shouldn't keep remembering it. But if it wasn't that, it'd be something else. And there's really nothing wrong with it unless he says it is, an ordinary man, and he goes and seeks treatment. I want treatment. I can't get over my first wife leaving me. It's just part of the hobby of life. It's just part of the adhesive that holds civilization together. But for someone trying to do something extraordinary, the kind of memories that are quite acceptable, quite necessary for ordinary people, are not necessarily any sort of bargain, not necessarily even acceptable ordinarily. Put another way, it hurts me when I think about it. We've been through the old joke. And I wish, and Henny Youngman, if he's watching, don't ask for royalties. It hurts me when I think about it. And when I do this, it's an obvious answer. Except it's not obvious. It's a joke, right? Well, my advice is don't do that. It hurts when I think about it. Well, you got any money on your kid? A few bucks, all right. Here's my professional advice, now that you paid me, is don't think about it. I want my money back. Because the truth is, with an ordinary person, if you said, all right, don't think about it, they go, well, I got to think about something, which is true. And then if you're really a dumb doctor, you say, well, all right, you got to think about something, but don't think about that. They go, well, I paid you for that advice. You're just saying don't think about that? Yes. But I got to think about something. Right. So think about something else. No, I want my money back. Sue me. Say, doctor, have you got a brother that works down at a Pontiac dealer? We out?